Hello, New York. Thanks for having me out here to join you in today's March for Health, Heart, and for Humanity. I'm actually really excited to be here. I flew out from California to be here amongst vegans, vegetarians, amongst veggies. I'm excited to be here amid environmentalists, amid activists, and animal lovers, all of whom I look at as heroes and heroines. People who put their actions where their mouths are. The Humane Party of New York, whose booth is right there, we realized that you could be doing anything else on this day, and here you are in full force. That's amazing. So, on behalf of my friends who put this inspiring event together, as well as the Humane Party of New York, and we cannot forget Susan Faye Schindler, who worked really hard to get me all the way out from California after just having a vegan conceived baby, December 13th. His name is Liam. I offer a humble and heartfelt thank you. I really appreciate it for having me out. I wanted to start off today's activities with a story. It's the story of the evolution of a young boy and a hero he was actually destined to meet and to work with. The boy was born to a Korean mother and an African American and Native American father. He was born overseas on a military installation. This boy was introduced to a wide array of foods, as you can imagine. From, on his mom's side, foods like kimchi, which if you don't know that food, it's a very spicy pickled cabbage. And dubu. You guys ever heard of dubu? We all know dubu as tofu. In Korean, it's called dubu, just to name a few. Now, on his dad's side, I kind of gave it away, collard greens and spinach and cabbage, right? Now, unfortunately, because they didn't know any better, the boy's parents also fed him what is commonly known as meat. Meat like deceased chicken body parts, fried in grease. What we know as fried chicken. The thighs of pigs chopped up from its dead body, and it's been renamed ham hocks so as to sound more appealing to ignorant human beings like myself, like I was for 30 years. Murdered turkeys and Korean favorites like bulgogi was one of my favorites growing up, which is really murdered and mutilated body parts of cows. That's what it is, and that's what I tell my children. All of these were staples of this young boy's diet growing up. At the age of 4, the boy finally asked his mom, "Mommy, what is bulgogi made out of?" When his mother told him that it was essentially the dead bodies of cows, the little boy's life was changed forever. Even at that tender young age, it really affected him. Now, like most kids, eating all of your dinner was a non-negotiable. So when his parents weren't looking, because he had to eat all his dinner, he would chew all of the flavor of the spices out of the meat and throw the meat behind his mother's favorite curio cabinet. Now, of course, in this young boy's mind, he thought he would never get caught. What a fantastic hiding place for a little 4-year-old. Now, one day, he heard some very familiar Korean words coming from his mom as she was cleaning house. 개새끼, 샴놈의 새끼. Now, I bet you can guess what the boy's mother was saying, or at least the spirit of what she was saying. She wasn't very happy with him. She had found his stash of flesh, chewed on hidden flesh that he had attempted to avoid digesting and hide. Poor little fellow. So that's this little boy. Now, all the while, this boy was trying to figure out how and where he should hide these, what he knew to be animals disguised as food. Right? The hero that I mentioned earlier, that he was destined to meet, that the little boy was destined to meet eventually, right? The hero was facing some very significant challenges. You see, the United States by this time had already gone down this path of empowering elite insiders, empowering people that took us down this path of exploitation, entitlement, on a path of indulgence and waste. This heartbroken hero began to fully be aware of the fact that our country was moving away from an ethical path. Now, we all know that an ethical path is always the most practical path that anyone can go on. The hero began to notice the unsustainable and destructive practices that were weakening our economy, the practices that were accelerating our healthcare costs, the practices that were compromising our financial future, that were squandering our natural resources, the practices that were engendering hostility among our fellow nations, and also endangering our own national security in the process. And to make matters worse, no matter how much the hero voiced concerns, no one seemed to listen, much less care. Now, by this time, the young boy that I mentioned, and we'll remember him as getting in trouble from his mother, right? He had already nearly died twice. He began getting very sick. He could never breathe through his nose. His lungs were constantly filled with mucus. And the two people that loved him most in the world, his parents, were at a loss. They were at a loss as to how to make their little boy ultimately feel better. And like most other Americans, they took their son to other human beings who happened to read a lot on medicine and study on the subject of medical practice. And it's unbelievable what these doctors told this little boy and his parents. These doctors told this little boy and his parents, after sticking and prodding him and shooting him with needles and giving him shots, They told this little boy he was, in essence, allergic to nature. They told this little boy he was allergic to nature's own representatives, non-human animals. That he was allergic to grass. That he was allergic to flowers. That he was allergic to dogs and cats. These doctors told this little boy and his parents that he was allergic to pollen and trees and leaves and dirt. That he was allergic to soil and birds and lions and tigers and bears. Oh my, right? All that. The list went on and on. Now, the hero, let's go back to the hero that I aforementioned. So, this hero was still going through some very gut-wrenching experiences during this time as well. Despite the abolition of human slavery, which had happened over 150 years ago, right, with the ratification of the 13th Amendment, the world had been previewed to unspeakable horrors and unspeakable acts. Right? There was a continued tradition of slavery that was going on that this hero had to face. But not of humans, but of non-human animals. This slavery of billions and billions of sentient beings is one of the foundational root cause contributions to some of the biggest problems that we face in our world today. A world filled with violence, aggression, a world filled with grief and poverty, filled with sickness and death and war. The United States has not gone 10 years without going to war since it's been founded. That is profound. So I guess you can guess by now that the boy that I'm talking about is me, right? And the hero that I'm talking about is all of you. The reason I came out here today is because prior to 2014, I was a vegan, an animal rights activist. And I knew that we needed to take our cause to the next level. And I looked back at history, I looked back at data, and I saw that the way that we received rights for women, the way that we received rights for African Americans and the LGBT community is through legislation. Now, our problem is that we don't have a lack of proposed legislation. We do not have a lack of proposed constitutional amendments. What we do have a lack of is the friends in Congress, the ethical, honest people in Congress who will listen to us and fight for the bills and fight for the Constitution, constitutional amendments that we are proposing. So that's why I ran for the President of the United States. I did not hesitate. When the board of directors approached me after volunteering my time as CEO for the political party, I agreed with no hesitation. I called that very same Korean woman. I said, "Mommy," still call her Mommy. Guess what? The Humane Party has nominated me to run for the President of the United States. What do you think about that? And she said, "Baby, do it." And the next thing you know, we're running. And in the history of this world, we had the very first all-vegan presidential and vice presidential ticket representing not only you guys, but our non-human animal friends as well. So why am I here today? I'm here because I want to join you in this celebration, in this march for our non-human animal friends. I wanted to join you in celebration of a healthy lifestyle, of protecting our planet, and I want to encourage each and every one of you to run for office. Whether it's running for mayor, city council, Senate, House of Representatives, or president. We all have a right, and remember, this is our government, not theirs. This is our government. And so with that said, I wanted to thank you so much for having me out. I understand I only have a couple minutes left. I really appreciate you having me. Thanks.